All right. Well, welcome to August 12th DPRG Robot Night Virtual. Small group tonight, but we have a few presenters. So, yeah, Karim, if you want to get us started.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Looking.
darn.
Okay. All set. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to check out.
I had thought through this part. I gotta stop my robot from listening to me while I'm
No
talking.
problem. Let me know if you need anything else. Got it.
I haven't taught it how to shut up yet.
For a bit, just let me know, and I go into a standby mode. No worries. If you want me to stay quiet for a bit, just say the word.
You're able to hear that?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you?
Some of it.
Okay. That's the robot right there.
Of course, I'll stay relaxed. Just let me know whenever you need me. I'm right here whenever you need me.
All right.
Everything okay on your end? I'm relaxed and ready when you are. Let me know if you need anything at all. Got it. I'll keep things calm and easy. Just let me know if
we already hit a bug.
You'd like me to help with.
Sometimes it gets into this loop where it's listening to itself
and keep things laid back.
Oh, right.
Let me know what's next.
And so
it's
it's turn taking. It's broken. And so it's trying to continue going at this point. I've responded to what the last thing it said. And that's even with echo cancellation enabled.
That makes sense. If you need me to keep an eye on something or just stay alert while
So this is a modification of the base that you got that I forgot what you got those things from. Some online auction or something in Las Vegas?
Yeah, it's a P3AT chassis. Yeah.
and like you've got
and that's just the base down
if there's
here.
anything I can help with.
There's an arm that's attached as well.
Just let
this
me know.
is
Absolutely.
Oh, actually, let me go ahead.
I'll keep things smooth and relaxed on my end. If you need me to focus on anything specific, just give me a shot.
Will do.
All good. I'll stay chill and ready. Just say the word whenever you need me, and I'm on it.
Let's try this. Okay, now probably doesn't help that we have this open.
Of course, I'll stay easygoing on my end. Just
so
let me
you get
know
to choose whether to make, a man's voice or a woman's
I'm here
voice.
when you're ready.
Yeah, you have a limited set of voices to choose from. It depends if you're, I'm really going to have to just turn off the microphone for a second.
Right. I have a few different voice styles, but I'm always here to match the vibe you need. Just let me know what.
It's a vibe robot. Okay.
Hi there.
It shouldn't receive any audio input for a minute. Okay, so this is the robot in Arviz. And on the camera, you can probably still see it as well. And this is what it's looking at right now, because there's a camera right here. The red thing is a camera on the end of the arm. So basically the arm is a 4-degree of freedom, fancy way to just move the camera around. And that's a RealSense 455? And so it's a depth camera. It's got a depth mode available as well. And so the idea here was that I wanted a better way to sort of interact with it. And so I started developing this human robot interface that's voice-based, so that eventually I'll be able to give it a full set of commands, interrogate what it's seeing, that kind of stuff. So what I'm using right now is the OpenAI real-time API. And the reason I chose that was so that it could give faster responses, because when you're communicating with a person or a robot or a device or anything like that, the stalls in fluidity really impact your experience. And the whole point of the real-time APIs, which are like specialized LLMs that the top tier providers are providing, that are different from the mainline APIs, is that they can accept streaming audio input and generate streaming voice back. So this is all happening over the web. or over the internet. So the robot is like listening to the microphone and then packaging up that information, sending it to the OpenAI real-time API, which accepts both text and voice, and then responds with both a text response and a voice response. And so the first thing I wanted to do was I have to the way you sort of build these things up is really heavily dependent on the system prompt that you give it. And the system prompt is different than the user prompt. So when you're typing into like ChatGPT or something like that, you're basically providing user prompts. A system prompt is something that starts up at the session level and sort of guides the whole interaction. So it applies to all of the subsequent user prompts. So for this particular case, we need to provide information about, what the robot is capable of doing, or eventually capable of doing. So I'm gonna turn the audio back on. Need a better way to handle this.
So is there like a fixed set of things that it will interpret as far as like, move here, get this, that kind of thing?
Yes. In fact, I had to scope it down pretty hard. So one of the other things that's going on here is, so there's some other examples of robots being sort of commanded by voice commands, and in most of those situations, it's either it's not able to also be conversational. It's just collapsed down to just providing an audio, just interpreting what the user is saying and converting them into a list of available commands. And so that's part of what's going on here. But I wanted to also be able to have conversations with the robot. So I'm going to describe, I'm going to, attempt to show that real quick here. So robot, tell me what you can do.
All set and ready to help out. What's next on the agenda? I can move around using my skid steer base, and I've got an arm with a camera that can look in different directions. I can use specific arm positions, like going low, looking up, or standing tall. I can also pan my camera to look in different directions, and I can follow or track objects. Just tell me what you need, and I'll handle it.
Tell me a story.
Once upon a time, there was a curious little robot who lived in a workshop surrounded by tools and gadgets. One day, the robot decided to explore the world.
Unfortunately, I don't have a way to tell it to shut up right
It
now.
rolled out into the garden, where it discovered a beautiful
So
butterfly.
I should have told it that's it
story.
for a very
Butterfly
short
led the
story.
robot to a field of flowers, each more colorful than the next. The robot realized
I hope
that
it's not
the
going to
world was
respond to
full
the
of
stuff that I'm
wonders,
saying right now.
and every new sight made it even more curious. From that day on, the robot explored every corner of the garden, making friends with birds, insects, and even the occasional squirrel. And it never forgot that first magical day with the butterfly. No worries at all. I'm always here to share a story or help in any way you need. Just let me know what you'd like, and we'll figure it out together. Sure. Once, there was a tiny robot.
Oh God,
who loved
no.
the sound of rain.
Not again.
Every time it started to drizzle, the robot would roll outside,
Not again.
lift its camera sky.
I really don't want to kill the whole thing because that
One day,
starts a whole
after a gentle rain,
initialization sequence.
a rainbow appeared, and the robot realized that beauty
Let
often
me let it
follows the
run out.
simplest joys.
By...
From then on, it always looked forward
Just
to
turn
a
off
rainy
the
day.
audio.
That's okay. I'm just glad to keep you company. If there's anything else on your mind or something you'd like to do, just let me know. See you later. Take care. Hey, they got it. Let me know how I can help without overdoing it.
Attention.
Okay. Standing at attention.
Wow.
Look right. Look all the way right.
Okay. Panning to the... Okay,
Oh.
panning full right.
Look behind you.
So Arviz is lost, I guess. Oh no, there it goes.
Just lagging.
Okay, panning back.
Sounds like all it
Cool.
needs to do is figure out how to open a door, and man, that thing would be gone. You know,
All set, looking behind me
for
now.
butterflies. Yeah.
Let me
Off
know
to
what's
find his
next.
meadow. Yeah.
No problem. Just let me know whenever you want me to adjust again.
Look forward.
Find
Okay,
butterfly.
panning forward.
That's really cool.
I think I broke it.
I'm still here and working fine.
Go down
What do
low.
you need me to do next?
If you
Okay,
say so.
going low.
Oh, there it goes.
There it is.
Foot cam. All right. So this is the position that it would normally
Set
go
down
to. Ah, shit.
What would you like me to check out? Yes, this low position is great for spotting obstacles close to the ground and keeping a low profile when moving around. Let me know if you need me to adjust or look at something
You
specific.
say you can track objects too?
Can you track objects?
I can follow or track objects if you give me a label or a name for them. Just tell me what you'd like me to track.
So at this point, it's actually lying to you because this is something that I put in. I've prepared it to say
Thanks
that
for the
it
heads
needs
up.
to be able to
If there's
follow
anything else
things,
you'd like me to
but
do or
that
look at,
actual
just let me
functionality
know.
isn't built out yet.
Exactly. I can follow something.
So it
if you
thinks it
give
can
me a
do
label.
it, but it doesn't
Gotcha.
actually have the
Thanks for
ability to
clarifying
do it
that.
at this
So for
point.
now,
But
if
yeah,
you'd
it's
like me to
just a matter
focus on
of just
something specific,
iterating through. But
just let
that
me know, and I
particular
can
command
adjust
is
my
actually
view or
something a little
position.
more complicated.
Exactly.
So that brings us
I'll let
to,
you know. All right.
yeah, I gotta
Sounds
set
good.
it up now.
Just let me know what you'd like next. Sure thing. I'll
Hmm.
keep it concise.
So would you have to, you know, take a bunch of pictures and create a model for whatever you want tracked, or can you just say, would it recognize something in a scene to track?
So the real-time API from OpenAI, which is what we're using right now, only allows text and voice input.
Okay.
They had talked for quite some time about adding the ability to do visual input. And you can, and they have, you know, visual input for their regular models, but those are the turn-based models. So it's not nicely integrated. But it is a possibility. What I'm working on right now, and this was, I couldn't get this working by tonight, was having an alternate approach where we're using the Gemini API instead. So so Google's version of this is called the Gemini Live API. And that one has some built-in video processing capabilities. So you can either send it individual frames or you can send it streaming camera video. And it supports a certain number of, now it can get pretty expensive pretty fast because, you know, camera frames obviously absorb a lot more tokens. And both of these models have issues with cost. So I worked really hard on this one to sort of do some things to keep the cost low, because like the OpenAI real-time API, they charge you sort of exponentially for the longer your session length is. So both of them have a maximum session length of 15 minutes. And but on the Open API side, what they do is they charge you for both the voice tokens and the audio tokens. Sorry, the voice tokens and the text tokens. And they charge you different rates for the ones that they send back. You know, the response tokens are actually much more expensive. And then they have to accumulate the conversation history for context. And so the audio tokens build up, and they're again, audio has more token consumption than the equivalent text does, because it's also sort of tracking even things like the sort of the mood that you express in your voice and things like that. All of that, so it can actually sort of figure out if if you act all depressed, it can sort of tell that from your tone. It's kind of amazing. So it provides extra value to do that. But what they're trying to do is keep you to low session lengths of like about 2 minutes. As soon as you go beyond 2 minutes, it starts getting progressively more expensive. So a 15-minute conversation can cost you $20.
Wow.
And you don't want to get into that situation. So what I've done is I've implemented a session cycling. An aggressive session cycling. So what I do is I wait for a pause, and then as soon as the robot detects a pause locally here using a VAD model, a voice activity detector, then it cuts off the session, and then but I maintain a cache of the conversation so far, including both what we've said in text form, because when we send up to the real-time API, it gives us 3 things back. It gives us a text response, it gives us the voice response, but it also gives us a transcript of what we said. Right? The prompts of it. So I record that transcript as well as the text response. I cache them locally, and then the next time we start speaking again, it spins up another session and re-injects that content so that the session has a simulacrum of a continuing conversation, and that keeps the sessions short. And so we don't run into that exponential cost. So it's going to have to be a little bit different on the Gemini side. There they continue charging for empty. It's basically, it's not exponential, but they do charge for silence as well at some lower rate, and I haven't really figured that out yet, because I hadn't got it to the point where it's functional long enough to see what might be happening charge-wise. There is one difference, is that on the OpenAI side, you have to I have to prepay for tokens. I automatically buy like 5 tokens at a time, and I get an email whenever it does that. So in my testing so far, I've only hit a $15 total. But if I was using it in a very heavy way all day long, it would get pricey pretty fast. So on the Google side, they instead, you can get started without paying anything, because they actually have a pretty generous, I can't say exactly what it is, I haven't run into it yet, but they provide a generous free amount of tokens for their APIs for developers to use. And then it's only once you hit that free limit that they will start charging you, and they don't even collect your payment information. So I guess the service will just shut off until you do a monthly rollover, or until you go ahead and start paying for tokens. But the Google tokens for the real-time API are cheaper. Now, everything should have changed as a result of OpenAI releasing ChatGPT 5, but GPT-5 is not what these models use. So these are still charged at a much higher rate, because like GPT-5, they just brought their pricing down so that they are now the lowest cost frontier model provider by a long shot. They're even beating Google Gemini at this point with GPT-5. So
very cool.
Anyhow, that's where I am right now. And any other questions?
Is this a project with an end goal, or what are you doing it for?
Just to learn.
Okay, great.
How to do this stuff. But it's a public project. I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't attempt to use it yet. In fact, I need to put a sort of disclaimer on it, because I would call this early pre-alpha, testing kind of stuff. But it's on my GitHub, so it's available. I call it by your command, and it's also very tied in with. It's too bad I can't find a Cylon voice, but it's very tied in with this particular robot. So it's not like just a generally usable kind of a thing. But I want to. It is RAWs based, and there are some additional challenges on that side of things. So I don't want to go into all of the details here, but I will be presenting this. Paul has asked me to present for the August meeting. So I imagine that's happening at the Makerspace. And so if that goes forward, I'll present this robot with backed up with a slide deck, and hopefully it figured out some of this telling it to shut up business.
Yeah, that'll be on the 23rd. Yeah.
23rd. So it's like come up soon.
2 weeks. Yep.
Yeah, that's soon. That feels soon. Hopefully I'll have the Gemini version up and running as well for comparisons. And there, if that works, I'll be able to show how it responds to describing what it sees in the camera as well. And I might even hook it up to allow it to move the base, but I'm not sure about that yet. I don't have a robust enough low-level object detection behavior built in, so the robot could easily start running people over. And it's a big enough robot to like hurt somebody's shins, kind of a thing.
Gonna leave a mark.
And leave a mark, yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
Is that Mike?
Okay.
Oh, I gotta stop presenting.
Yeah, so of course I'm working on my big robot. You can sort of see it over my shoulder right there on the ground. And I got it working a lot better around 0 RPM or 0 meters per second movement. So I worked on that deadband, trying to work around it and get it so it can run slow. and so I've put all my sensors on it. I'll move the robot over here so you can see the sensors better. But put the sensors on it, and I've been getting the sensors running. So I have a BNO 85 sensor and a GPS sensor, a M10Q for GPS, and then I have the LiDAR on top. And I took the camera off of it right now because I don't really have it integrated well. So that'll be the next sensor I'll work on. But I wanted to get the other sensors working first. Sensors I know how to deal with. So before I go down that big rabbit hole, I wanted to get these working. And I finally got, well, the GPS had a compass on it too. And I spent days trying to get my code on the microcontroller to give good readings, good steady state readings that are coming out at the right rate and everything. And they all seem to interfere with each other, like blocking and stuff. So, so I haven't figured out how to get the compass reading out of it, but the IMU has a magnometer and it has a good compass. So it has pretty good direction within a few degrees. And so it says basically, oh, I don't need an extra compass. I'll just use my IMU, my BNO 85. And then I hooked it up to my controller here. And let me turn it on.
So
And-
Karim, you're still advising just to use GPS and figure out the compass heading from that?
Never touch a magnetometer.
Nah.
My byline is magnetometers are evil.
Yeah. So, but I got it.
You can get them to work. You can
I
never
need to
trust
figure out how to get the information out of the GPS, but when it's not moving, you really can't get compass settings.
Right, you have to move a little bit to
Right.
get a heading.
So the magnometer will give you maybe it'll give you a basic direction, and maybe the GPS. I don't know. I'm trying to learn this stuff. So I think I have it running here, but I don't have a room big enough for the turn radius of this guy. And so inside of the Ross wants to control everything with velocities. So it's like angular velocity and linear velocity. And so so I converted my controls on here to angular and linear velocity. The weird thing about angular velocity basically controls the wheels, but it does so in conjunction with linear because it doesn't know how to move the wheel at what degree to get that angular velocity. It has to have some movement to move the wheels. So when I move when I move this over here, the wheels don't move until I tell it to go forward or backwards. So
It's almost like a boat that won't turn in the water unless you make a move forward. Interesting.
So, oops. Still trying to figure out how to drive this guy. Yes. So its turn radius is really bad. I don't have a room big enough.
That's common to a lot of rock crawlers. I had that problem with ours as well. And it helped in ours that we were able to also add steering to the back wheels.
Oh yeah, or four wheels.
So that tightened it up quite a bit. But the reason they don't care about that much is because normally you can just rely on the wheels slipping and the robot through the suspension will automatically sort of settle in, and you can learn how to control it that way.
Yeah, but
When it's crawling over rocks, it doesn't help much on nice level ground.
yeah, I didn't get a four-wheel. Well, like my platform didn't have the rear steering, so
Yeah,
I'm just going to get what I have working. But you saw that it ran pretty smoothly. Okay, so this is the like the LiDAR. You can see it on here. Can everyone see it? I got it.
Yeah.
As close as I can on the ground. And then this is the GPS. Got to click on there. And this over here is the IMU. I put the IMU over the rear axle because that's sort of where it wants to be. And
blue tape is the best construction material.
the what?
Blue painters.
Blue tape is great construction material.
Yeah.
I like the upside down pill bottles too. I have one that has a IMU mount with exactly the same style of mount. An upside down pill bottle.
Yep. And the camera will be in this position here, of course. So
And your
that's
trusty,
sort of where the camera would be.
your trusty router as well.
And then plug in to the USB hub right there. So the USB hub is powered by the through a regulator from the 12-volt battery. And so and instead of moving out this, I'm just going to move it manually. To do this with the controls that are taking 2 minutes. Okay. So this is the Pi, the Raspberry Pi 5 right here. And this is my board, my microcontroller board for the 2 sensors over here. Like the LiDAR plugs direct through this converter, plugs into USB, and the camera plugs directly into USB. So, and then I have a USB connector coming from underneath to a microcontroller down there that plugs in. I just plug it directly into the Pi because it doesn't have any power. It doesn't have any sensors, or it doesn't have to. It's a really low power thing, so I just plug it directly in. So, so that's mechanically where I'm at, and so I have the. Let's see if I can share the screen. Ah, right there. Yeah. So this is the screen, the LiDAR screen. You can see my hand, but yeah. So I'm over here. So I got the LiDAR running and I'm checking with it with Arviz. And also if I share a different screen, how do I do that? Let me see. I share the I think that's it. Yeah. So this is the battery ROS message being printed out, and that's so right now the battery's at 11.8 volts. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And then this one here, I'm looking at the IMU messages, and I have it set to 30 hertz to get the IMU information, and I figured that's pretty important to get some quick information out of it. I'm going to set the odometry from the wheels. Oh, I got that too to show, but yeah, the odometry from the wheels. But so I'm doing the rate on it, and it's 30 hertz. So, and if I could do the right. So in ROS, you can set it to measure the frequency of your messages. And so I'm just making sure that I want my messages to be at this rate, and this is from the sensors on the microcontroller, and it's coming out at 30 hertz. So I'm pretty happy. And that, my IMU, I set it to, yeah, this is IMU. GPS I set to 10 hertz, and I think I have the odometry from the wheels at 30 hertz too. So I think I got my sensors in a position where I could hook it up to a navigator package if I wanted to. And so right now it's like, do I go to the navigator package or do I start using the camera? It's like, which poison do I want to, well, do I want to go down? Because whichever one I go down is going to be a long slog. So that's my demo.
Very cool.
Very nice.
I don't have any gold stars, so anybody else?
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Carl or David, you all came in after we took the list. Do you have anything to show off or talk about?
I'm afraid not. Just back from a weekend of doing nothing with family.
Oh.
That's hard work.
It is that. It is that. And I came back and I'm on the aircraft and I noticed that, oh my, what happened to all this time I've spent looking at different ChatGPT models? Now there's another one out.
Yeah.
Just to mess with me.
Keep you on your toes.
Yep. I have a question though, if anyone, if it's a good, it's open mic time or?
Oh yeah, it's open mic.
So my camera just broke. Apparently I haven't rebooted enough today. So So my question relates to using GPTs, complementary services, and I have a kind of a question. It seems like, from what I can tell, let's say I have a big software project. I got some ideas, but I really want to make sure that I got the right kind of concepts and architectures in mind before I dig in and start to code. And I have the impression that it would be good to use ChatGPT, one of the thinking reasoning engines, to try and explore and compare the kind of overall high-level conceptual tasks of a big project in software against a handful of different architectures. So maybe it's subsumption, maybe it's behavior tree, maybe there's some other stuff in there. Like in one of the threads I had, I learned of something called a strangler fig pattern, which is an approach you can take if you have to refactor a ginormous code, for example, a 4,000 line long method in a file that should never have existed. And you don't want to do it all at once. So there's this strangler fig pattern that lets you put an adaptation layer in between that ridiculous function in the outside world. And then as you gradually pick away different functions that this ridiculous monolith does, you can replace the behavior with new well-formed code and do it gradually instead of one giant big bang. Let's refactor a 4,000 line method and see what happens. So I have the impression that the ChatGPT and the thinking and reasoning models are pretty good at brainstorming and looking through those kinds of different problem area spaces and getting you an approach. But then on the other hand, I have the impression that like GitHub Copilot and some of these others that are designed to work with big file sets and repos, where those repos, to my way of thinking, serve as the RAG, and the GPT is intimately aware of how the code is interconnected and interrelates. So I have the impression that then it can actually be complementary to do the kind of overall architecture, brainstorming, planning, requirements definition, that kind of stuff, do a ChatGPT, and then migrate over to where you use GitHub Copilot to actually implement the code and write frameworks and test cases and refactor and whatnot. So I just wonder, am I blowing smoke in the dark places, or is that like a valid impression of that I've picked up, or is ChatGPT just echo chambering my perception and I don't know it? How's that for a long-winded question?
I'd be happy to take a crack at that, but I'd like to give other people the chance to go first.
Yeah. I need to refactor my code, and I just do it manually, but I wonder if I should. But mine's really simple, just hundreds of lines on each module. But so I was wondering if AI could help me, but it's a simpler thing than what Carl's thinking of. So,
like what I'm thinking of is literally taking here's the approach I have in mind of taking a custom GPT within ChatGPT, and that lets you have some 20 really large files that it views as RAG or whatever knowledge. And I was thinking of loading up in there a kind of high-level descriptions of the system that I have, the kind of functionality, the interfaces, the external APIs, the different behaviors, the way that I think the business logic could be segregated, and the kind of system targets that I want, which include maintainability, observability, testability, all the good abilities, and trying to put those together in the as kind of like background knowledge in the custom GPT, and then starting some threads that say, okay, and in other threads, I've had these different approaches for architecture. So can you tell me what best practices say about this definition of the problems I've defined in the knowledge. Can you help me define, like, would this be a good approach to structure the new code and then continue it out? What would best practices have to say, and then work it to the point where I say, then, okay, now give me a skeleton at the top level skeleton that includes the references I define and lets me start to build the code. So I'm thinking to do it that way, top down from scratch. Almost, I don't know if it's a spec driven or test driven design, but I'm thinking to start from that level in a custom GPT. And then take that output and start building repos around it. And then within the repos, then kind of switch over to the daily grudgery of coding and such within an implementation using the Microsoft GitHub Copilot. So it's I'm just rambling again, but fill the airwaves.
Hell, I'll jump into this one. I'm not gonna be able to see y'all, so if people start yawning and it's just not interesting, and I'm running on, you need to.
My camera's broken, or I'd show you not yawning over here, so I'm not yawning.
There's other people here as well, but once I start, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. And so the project that I was sort of demoing earlier, so this is the code base for the project that I was demoing earlier. What the window that you're seeing here is Windsurf. And so Windsurf is a VS Code clone. So when you say do it in GitHub Copilot, you're probably talking about VS Code native with the built-in Copilot. And so this is a clone of that. You've probably heard of Cursor. Cursor is also a clone.
Yep.
So again, I'm using Windsurf here. So Windsurf lets you, and I'm not going to like turn this into a tutorial of how to use Windsurf and stuff like that. But this particular project is called by your command, right? And so I'll bring up I got too much junk here. I got a bunch of different repos in this workspace. What I've started doing is I've started compiling, I keep a specs folder now. So everything in the specs folder is research, sessions, and then PRDs are in the core of it, right? So these are the product requirements documents that I developed. And so I'll start with research, and here I'm using things like this was a chat GPT session where I was using the research agent to go through and compare a number of different kinds of repos for the problem that I was looking at. Now, this is a blue sky project. And by that, I mean, it's like, I'm not talking about refactoring some existing code base. However, I will be able to speak a little bit to refactoring. But the whole concept here is I wanted to create that voice agent for human robot interaction assisted with an LLM, and it had to be in real time. So the first thing I need to do is I need to research how do you what are the different options for dealing with real-time conversations with LLMs. And so that's part of this research folder right now only has 2 documents in it, but if you look back at my my history across multiple, I don't just do OpenAI, I also do Claude, I also do Gemini, and so I'll sort of compare the conversations between them. And so I've got a whole bunch of documents also from that I just keep in Google Docs. And so I haven't managed to like get them all into this new method that I'm working on, where I want to keep the research in the repo itself. Kind of clutters up the repo and adds a lot of stuff there, but I'm starting to find that it is usable, particularly with agents, coding agents that I'm using, where they have access to the full repo. Because one of the things I've noticed is that when you're using a chat client, a web-based browser type chat client, it's going to have real hard time, even with the latest features where you can sort of authorize it to look at your repos and GitHub and things like that. It still has a really hard time searching through all of that stuff. So once you get to the actual coding portion, you want to have access to the entire context, from research through the PRDs to the actual code that you start developing, as well as the sessions that you execute while you're doing code development. So this is not properly representative of like all of the research that I did for this project, but I've started bringing in the things that I sort of needed at the time that I'm tackling something in particular. So this particular one is like about PipeCat and LangChain are LLM orchestration APIs that let you sort of talk to multiple LLMs at once and coordinate them. And PipeCat in particular is tuned for real-time conversations. And so I started using that for the Google Gemini Live API that I'm now porting this functionality to. And so I needed to have that document in here. And then sessions contain...
Karim, I'm sorry, quick question.
Yeah.
I noticed you put the raw links to the thread, like on line 6 there. Mm-hmm. Is Copilot or whatever you have tied into this able to query that link? It's a public link, I presume.
So it may actually. I don't think I've made this one public.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter because all of the content of that link is actually in this document.
Okay, so you exported as a MD.
I exported the whole thing as an MD.
Okay.
Right, and there's like a exporter plugin that I put in the browser that does this pretty nicely.
Huh.
Right, so I think it should show up right down here at the bottom. Yeah, ChatGPT exporter. So that was a Chrome plugin that lets you, because ChatGPT doesn't want you to do it so easily. They'll let you export it as like a doc or a PDF. Right. But LLMs really like to access markdown files. Structured, right? Yeah. Structured markdown is what they really want. And so this managed to scrape the web page and put it out, and it is representative of the actual conversation. Like if I were to preview it.
Yeah, that's as you saw.
It's just a nice, simple, right? And so this is this is not just what the report. That's not just the report that was spit out by the initial question the initial prompt, right? I asked for a report explicitly, and so it gave me this long report, and then and then the bottom section here is when I started asking questions beyond the report. Right. They were still in that conversation space. Yeah. So this extension was able to like pull the entire conversation, not just the report section, which ChatGPT gives you a different way to export. But the reason I have it all here is that when I'm using, I'm using Claude Code for a lot of this, and then I'm using this as well. Where's my? I've never seen it like this. Where did it go?
It looks so much like VS Code.
It is. It's a pure VS Code ripoff, right? I mean, it's from the public version of it. Okay. And that's exactly what cursor is as well. What I'm confused about is like all of a sudden I lost my, I've lost my AI window right here. The part that lets you interface with different AIs, right? So there you get drop downs of which AI you want to have the conversation with. And you can actually switch LLMs midstream, right? Within one conversation, I could see what Claude code or what Claude, different versions of it, Sonnet or whatever, or Opus will do. And then I can switch over to like OpenAI or Gemini and see what kind of content or what kind of operations they'll suggest. And you can have different modes like planning mode versus actual like code development mode. And the good thing about doing it within the context of one of these, so this is what's different about when you're using VS Code, you don't have the ability to choose different models. Right. But here you do. Of course, you're paying for it. Like I'm on the $15 a month plan here, and you only get a certain number of credits at that level. I'm able to sort of get by with that in many instances, because this is not the only coding agent that I'm running. I also run Claude Code on this exact same code base. So on the robot itself, I'm running Claude Code here. So Claude Code is a terminal-based approach, but it is directly connected to this same code base. So this is actually the Windsurf is running on my desktop, but it's connected remotely to the robot. So this is actually the code base on the robot live. So I can see the changes that both tools are making to the same code base at the same time. And I can even ask them to like do git commits for me and that kind of stuff. Like they automate the entire workflow. And what the most important thing about it is, again, the limitation when you give access to GitHub repos through the extensions on ChatGPT. It's a high friction interface. It wants to go one file at a time. But here I can actually tell it, go look at this particular file or that particular file as like the kickoff to a new subtask that I want it to do. And so again, the process I'll do is I'll do the research first, and a lot of that doesn't actually happen in the code environment. Bring that stuff in, and then I actually interact with the LLM to generate the product requirements document, right? So, I wonder if this one is any good. So it will actually help me like it would generate these block diagrams, right? And it's sort of describing the kind of architecture that we're coming up with. So I do the research first, then I do an architecture discussion with various LLMs.
But you do the architecture within Windsurf using different LLMs.
Yes.
Huh.
Well, I also do architecture possibilities just in ChatGPT as well. But when I start getting more crisp on it, when I'm starting to understand it enough myself, then I'll switch to a coding environment, and I'd either use Claude Code or I'd use Windsurf to develop to hard code the architecture into a first it's like system diagram, and then specific product development, specific PRDs or specifications for the major subsystems that I want to build out.
Okay.
And only then do I start doing the coding. And then what you'll end up finding out is that the coding quickly gets out of sync with the PRDs. Even if you have to constantly remind the AIs that they need to refer back to it, and that if you recognize that we've made it, we've drifted away from the PRD in one aspect or another, we need to then go back and update the PRDs and do that in real time. Because the whole idea is like it's not like It's not like I would ever expect that if the code got wiped out completely, that you'd be able to regenerate exactly the same thing just from the PRDs. But the idea was that you, especially in a really complex project, but the idea is that you would be able to at least get, march in the same direction, and it would be a much faster process to go through it, because I generally let the agent work on the PRDs, and then I just tell it what I want it to change. I don't author it directly unless it's just refusing to get something right. So sometimes I'll go in and make a change, but usually I ask it to. But the whole idea is that I can ask it to refer to the PRDs, especially when we get back to things like refactoring discussions, because often you will make choices that were the wrong choices for legitimate reasons at the time, but might have been just ultimately a short-term way of going. And that might be right for the progress you needed to make at that time, but then you later recognize that you should have gone in a different direction. And so you have to, be iterative and loop back on that whole discussion, or on that original specification, and then ask it to sort of going back and forth. What are the things we need to change to now comply with the PRD? Or if the PRD is just fallen so far behind, I ask, what are the things in the PRD that we need to update based on the code, and consider the code primal, to be prime, and we eventually get there.
It's funny because as you described that, I find the same thing happening in just the human workflow, that you start off with the original specs and guidelines, for example, in Confluence, and then comes the JIRA tickets, and then comes the code. Next thing you know, you look at the code. Wait a second, this variable doesn't match what was in the original schema in Confluence. How did that happen? How did we get there?
Yeah.
So
it's so easy to get out of sync with the original vision, and quite often the vision was wrong, or it needs to be updated as things have evolved. This is Claude code. Again, not going to do a tutorial on how to use Claude code. At first, it's really weird that it's like just a primitive text interface. It ends up being it is a very fluid experience once you get used to it. But one of the things they released just like a week ago was this agents thing. And so what you can do is you can create new agents. There aren't any in this context right here. But you can create agents, and the whole idea is these are different personas, like it says right here. You might try creating a code reviewer or a simplifier, security, tech lead, that kind of thing, a system architect, all of that kind of stuff. So what it really is a group of prompts that you create, and you actually use, the agent to help create the, you actually use Claude code to create the agent, right? Because there's certain structures that it wants to have in there. So you let it do the startup, and then you go through a question and answer session, and you tighten it up to exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So you can sort of activate different agents and say, we just had this, review session. Does that impact the system architecture? And you fire up the architecture agent and you let it go to town. And the only downside of this is it gets very expensive very fast. This was a tool that was developed by Anthropic internally, and by the way, it's all the rage now. It's like completely taken over the developer community. Claude Code has, but it's using the most expensive model out there, but a lot of people believe it's the best for coding. Claude Opus. And so, but they give you a discounted rate for buying the monthly plan. And so you're not actually paying for, API credits necessarily. But they're still putting, bigger and bigger limits on how many, conversations you get, how many tokens you consume, that kind of thing. However, this multiple personality thing is a way to also sort of create like an automated team around your effort.
And you found that helpful, not just an interesting exercise for fun.
Oh, it's definitely helpful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think the quality of what I'm able to do and the speed at which I'm able to do it is boosted significantly.
So you got a team multiplier there just with yourself and these agents working for you.
Yep. Now, it's still frustrating no matter what you do.
Sure.
The AIs they make mistakes all the time, even the best of breed, right? I mean, I today, so basically I'm porting an OpenAI version of my voice controller to Gemini Live and using a different framework than we were using on the OpenAI side. And it's just made so many mistakes. And I have to constantly keep telling it, we've already built this. It works beautifully over here. Look, we have, specification documents about it. Let's reuse what we can, the learnings from it. And it keeps forgetting that we've solved, a whole bunch of problems that it's coming up with again. And so, I've spent half the day undoing stuff that it's doing.
But which model was that, or which agent?
And this is actually using, best of breed is Opus 4.
Those Opus 4.
Claude Opus 4, yeah. Or I haven't activated 4.1 yet.
When it was forgetting, were you paying attention to the context window? Because I presume, does it do something like ChatGPT does, that when you have these long-running threads, it tends to summarize the older stuff and give more weight to the newer stuff? So because it summarizes the older stuff in the thread, it appears like it forgets, but it's really just working off of some subsetted summary.
Yeah, so that's the problem that I'm having right now is that we're I remember thinking when the frontier models hit a 200,000 token limit.
Yeah.
For it's like, that's huge, that's gigantic. It feels tiny to me now, right? The bigger
RAM, baby.
Yeah, the fact that GPT-5 just upped it from 200 to 400,000 is great. Google's Gemini has 2.5 Pro is at 1 million tokens, and so that all helps. The larger and more complex the project is, like the number of lines of code I've got in here is 10,000, something like that. The more and the more complex the project structure, the more it needs to really consume all of that space. And so even in these conversations, so this is the actual conversation history. It tells me what it's doing, and and then I have my prompts in here as well. We see the whole change history and that kind of stuff. But the actually, let me back out of that. I wonder if I did. Oh yeah, it doesn't show me what my current consumption is. Basically, after a number of hours, we get to the point where you're running out of your conversation window, and you need to allow it. You can either ask it to auto compact, or you can tell it when to compact. And then you have there are techniques where you can have more control over how it does the compaction. So you can tell it what to focus on, what to preserve. But again, so these conversations, that's what I have over here. So I can roll back. So every time right before I turned off auto compact, there's a counter when you get close. And so when I'm getting close to 0 context remaining, then I will export it and I'll save it into sessions, and then I'll compact it. And so I have a way to go back without losing all of that other stuff. I have a way to go back to a particular conversation and sort of use that to revitalize what it's thinking. I spend probably 50 on it can't actually be this high, but it feels like it's, I spend 50% of my time managing the context of the LLMs.
Yeah, sure. I mean, because that seems to be a huge part of the problem. Is, yeah.
I actually, you might actually enjoy this. I think I posted in, let's see, in Discord. I think I posted this right here. You might want to look at that one.
Okay.
It's because what it basically reveals is that whole Claude code thing. It's mostly just a wrapper around LLMs, right? Around its own best of breed LLM for guiding the software engineering process. And it lets you peek inside and see how it does it. And you'll see that so these are the experts at Anthropic designing their own tool using their own LLM, and they're having to do these backflips to get it to stay on task. And you can see that in the actual prompts that are embedded in the product. Right? So that's a very good video. I would recommend you take a look at that.
Well, that sounds cool. So that's just the state of the art. Huh.
Yeah. Anyhow, I really did run on there.
At least I appreciate it. Thank you. That's very insightful.
Did I lose everybody else?
So Karim, I have a question.
Yeah.
My question is, why don't you just use VS Code? What's the deal?
I didn't make that clear. Okay. So VS Code limits you to using GitHub, whatever it is.
Copilot.
Yeah. It limits you to using Copilot because it's owned by Microsoft, and that's the one that they're pushing. Right? Okay. That's it. What I didn't show you, because I have to go and repair the window. I don't know how because I've never seen it like that before, just now.
Sorry.
But yeah, the whole AI panel was missing. But the fact is that you can choose the best of breed LLMs from everywhere. And I'm talking about the various Chinese ones, the top 3 American ones, the open source ones, like the recent ones that OpenAI just recently released are actually pretty incredible. And they let you access those as well. And because those come with fractional token costs, right? Because in fact, it's kind of weird. The way they had to price it was like if you choose if you choose Claude Opus 4, it charges you 20 times the standard token cost. Right? In other words, you will run out of credits 20 times faster than you will with like OpenAI's GPT-5. And in fact, right now, GPT-5 is cheap because they're sort of doing a preview of it. It's free. But you can, so anyhow, you have the freedom to switch back and forth and try all of the best of breed models, and just gives you more freedom. You feel you're less locked in.
It's interesting because Perplexity does a similar thing apparently. You can, I didn't realize, but my father-in-law and one of his friends are in deep academic communities, and they seem to prefer Perplexity because it's RAG first, source reference rich for, like, let's say public health research. And but as I started to look at it, because it seemed to me like it could be a good thing for researching general public-facing web content, actually you get on the pro levels, and you can use Perplexity to select between different LLMs, including Claude and OpenAI, as well as the native Sonar or whatever Perplexity has. So
Yeah,
it's
there's a whole group that are sort of resellers of other
yeah,
model providers or aggregators.
Yeah.
And some of them do automatic switching, and some of them are most of them are mostly focused on you just being allowed to pick and choose. But the underlying reality is that these models have different cost structures.
Right.
And so you might end up eating credits a lot
credits
faster.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something, that's the multipliers.
Right.
But it's just fascinating to me, the whole what a difference the wrapper can make even for the same underlying LLM.
Oh, it does. It makes a huge difference. And then at the same time, it's like everything's changing so fast.
Yeah.
You know, you can't like
You can't keep up.
sit still because of the you know, like the most recent stuff from OpenAI, you know, a lot of backlash against it, and they made some stupid moves in removing all of the other models for a little while there. But it really is a good product. It's not crazy beyond anything else. But their new agent stuff is great, and that was actually released separately from this.
Right.
Yeah, I would just caution you that I think custom GPTs are going to go the way of the dodo, because I think that they are like they're basically tied into the OpenAI infrastructure exclusively.
Right.
They're not the open way to go about these kinds of things, and ultimately, I think they're going to sort of fall by the wayside, except for loyal OpenAI only customer base. There's ways to do anything that you know. In fact, at the same time, their agents API is also kind of locked in, but it's becoming it's a best of breed way to sort of accomplish these things, and so other providers are starting to adopt that API. That's one area where OpenAI has been in the lead from the beginning. They've generally been the first to offer strong APIs as interfaces to their services. And so the rest of the industry tends to follow them until they need to leapfrog on a particular area.
Thank you. That's really helpful insight, Scream.
Well, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just one dude.
Oh, of course.
Right.
That's what's great about this venue. It's all very salty.
Well, earlier I was talking about my work on my sensor controller and saying that having blocking, like the libraries I was using had blocking issues, and so instead of multi-threading, I decided to use just the second core of the Pico, and so I just put the GPS management in the core 2 and left everything else in core 1. So that's basically a multi-threading, but it's multi-coring. So
Even better.
Yeah, I've never used it before. I did like an example. I said, "Oh, it works," and now I said, I need to use it." so I was really happy that it was really easy to do in the Arduino. Just set up another config, not file, but a config function and another loop function. It's like a setup one and loop one is how you start using the second core. And there's nothing else. It's just that. That's all you do. Then they run simultaneously because they're in separate cores. So
Are there bottlenecks when they try to execute peripherals, or is that automatically protected?
Oh, you have to, if you're trying to access the same peripheral, you have to protect it. But they access the memory good. Like I put a little FIFO for the serial port, sending a message from the GPS was running the code to get the data, and then I formatted it into a JSON message, string message, and then send it into a FIFO and to the other core to send out to the serial port. So So it
You have
was,
to manage who has access to the serial port, or did you have dedicated serial ports for each processor?
oh, each of them has dedicated serial ports. Yeah, each sensor.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I had 2 serial ports, and the GPS wanted a serial port, and the BNO 5085 really liked using the serial port. So instead of the I2C, so I used the serial port on it. Then the other compass I had used the I2C. So I was using different hardware engines for each of the peripherals. But that's basically how I could move it to a different core. So it's not using the same serial interface or the same I2C or anything. So I was happy. I was patting myself on the back. I was sort of going, I don't want to do that, but I didn't want to start using threads and RTOSes and stuff. So I just said, I've never done this, and I have it. It's for free. So yeah.
So, Karim, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
I just opened up Claude tonight, and it says new. Claude never loses the thread. Now, Claude can reference past chats for relevant context.
Past chats for that's new.
Well, you know, when you run out of space on one chat,
Mm-hmm.
kind of forgets everything that you just talked about in your new chat.
So you're talking about the browser interface to Claude?
Well, I'm on my laptop now.
Yeah, but are you accessing it through a browser?
No, I've got this one downloaded.
Because you didn't
Yes,
say
sir.
Claude Code. Is it Claude Code?
No, it's just Claude.
Yeah, so that's a browser interface or Claude Desktop. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Right. So I haven't actually used Claude Desktop. Somebody's got
Echo.
a feedback loop coming. Thanks. Oh, it's actually yeah, it's coming through David's. So makes it hard to talk. Can you mute yourself for a second, David?
Sure.
Okay. No, still there. Wait, is it me? No, it's not me. It's still coming through yours, David. You need to mute your microphone. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I just can't do it with that feedback. Where were we? Okay, so Claude Desktop. I don't actually use Claude Desktop. I either use I pretty much do exclusively in Claude Code, so things are probably a little bit different. And I don't even use the browser version that much. I know that OpenAI has had the ability to store past conversations, and it gives you control over it automatically lets you use previous conversations, and those are stored for the long term. Right now, there's no deletion policy that I'm aware of, and yeah, you can talk cross conversations. So it kind of sounds like Claude Desktop has sort of brought that capability in, and that does give you. So it doesn't solve the immediate context size problem. It just lets you switch to older conversations and do some cross conversation type of analysis and context sharing and things like that. But I don't think it would get us past the actual 200,000 token limit. So yeah.
Okay. So in Claude Code, did you mention that after a while you need to start a new chat or something?
Yes. So in Claude Code, the the conversation window that you saw, you know what? Let me just do it real quick. I'll just share again for just a second.
That's something that's pretty nice that I didn't, at least for Open Chat GPT, I understood that that conversation window is definitely there, but they don't give you the counter when you're approaching it. They don't tell you, like in the browser API or the app API when you're about to run out of space.
Right. Yeah. So in Claude Code here, you can see right here, see this context low? So first of all, I'm approaching the usage limit because I don't even do Claude Sonnet, right? And oh, by the way, I need to confess here, I'm using it enough where I'm on the $100 a month plan now. And there's actually a $200 a month plan. And it's like I'm kind of eyeing that because, you know, you don't have to commit long term. And when you're doing really heavy use, it's hard to go back. But I'm finding, even though a lot of people think, you know, Sonnet is a pretty good engine, and it is, it makes even more silly mistakes. It's just too many silly mistakes. And so it's worth it to, so what I do is, what they do is they automatically put you on a blended model. But if you do model, so the default is they'll automatically split it for you. So it'll use Opus 4.1 for, you know, 20%. So when you start a new session, because the sessions are 5 hours long, just by default, when you start a new session, it'll use Opus for the first 20% of it, and then it'll switch over to Sonnet. And you can feel it getting dumber when it does that. So I just force it to stay on Opus, right? So that's the model I use. But because I'm running low on context at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go through that process that I told you about. Because what it does is if you just go beyond 0 here, it will just start losing context, right? If I've turned off if you turn on auto compact, it'll do it at like 15% or something like that. But I've turned it off, and I would just start losing context, and it would lose the sort of beginning of the last compact that you did. So I'm just going to do a / export, right? And / X, yeah, and do save to file. Comes up with a horrible name. I'm going to call this start Gemini, because I know what I'm actually where I am in this version. And so that's going to save it into like the working directory, and later I'll copy it on over to my sessions. And then I'll just do / compact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it up to the top, because the top always contains the summary of the last compact. So it'll end up looking something like this stuff, right? So, however, I'm not going to do it. Well, I'm going to start it live, but I'm not going to sit here on it because it actually takes a while to compact. So it'll probably be finished in about 5 minutes or so. So you have to manage this process yourself, and if you don't export it, it'll just compact it. You know, it'll choose what it wants to keep in the context, and so you will start losing stuff. So you have to use this, you know, export process if you want to like keep that history for whatever reason. And then you can also do / clear, and that's if you're like gonna now move on to something entirely different, and now for something different. Then you want to clear out all of the context, because it's just going to pollute the results if you have irrelevant context available.
So Karim, does this mean for long-running conversations that until you run out of quota, that with every prompt you add, the context that it keeps, as long as you have it compacted, does that mean that with every prompt it's adding more and more and more context to the to every pass through the LLM?
No, what the compact is doing is it's summarizing your previous things.
Yeah.
But so this, I've been running this this Claude set of sessions through a pretty complex, you know, evolution of the project.
Yeah,
and it's summarized away into oblivion most of the early stuff.
right.
But there I tell it, go back and look at the PRD, and I'll remind it we've already had a discussion about it. So I'll ask it, refresh yourself on this specific PRD, and you can point to files by name. You just put the @ symbol in, and it'll give you, and start typing, and it'll give you a search set of results of matching files. And so you can redirect it to look at certain files. So again, you have to like manage that context somewhat manually when you want to refresh it on something you haven't revisited in a while.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. But I mean, like if you're starting into a thread and you're still not quite to the point of where you need to run a compact.
Well, sometimes you have to, like you're just running out of space and you're forced to compact.
But I mean before that, back up a couple of prompts before that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you've used 60 or 70% of your context window.
Yeah.
Your available context. So let's say you add a prompt that's going to then take your 60% up to 80%. So
it doesn't go that fast. You're not going to do that in a single prompt.
Okay.
It's very, very unlikely. Yeah.
But as you do that in successive prompts, does that mean that like one prompt you give it has like 60% of the context available, then a couple prompts later you're giving it 65%, and a couple more prompts you're giving it 70%? Does the amount you feed the LLM grow until you compact it or switch to a different thread?
So the conversation that you see is your context.
That is the context.
That is the context.
So it keeps growing.
So when I compact it, it runs the LLM right back through it and says, these are the important bits to keep.
Right.
And let's put a summary right at the very beginning. And what it does is it basically then it takes all of that stuff and it shrinks it down to like that.
Right.
And then immediately you start adding below, and it refers back to the summary, portion,
Right.
which is more heavily weighted to what you're most recently doing, right? And then it just starts building it up again, and it starts stacking up and stacking up and stacking up until you have to compact it down again.
Right.
So it never brings it back to zero, but it actually does flush your context by shortening the whole thing into a summary, and
Right.
then it approaches the limit again.
Okay. And then in Claude, that context window, is that the same you have available by the API, or is it shrunk down like you have in the ChatGPT ones?
So I don't know the full details of exactly how much it is. It's less than the 200,000 token context, because it's also using that context window for things like session prompts and and the tool calls and all that other stuff. So
Okay.
I don't know what the actual ratio is of what they allow in that particular window.
Cool. Thanks.
Very cool. Right.
Different world.
Guess it was AI night tonight.
It was.
It's AI night for me all week.
It's getting to be impossible to avoid.
Oh,
It
geez.
is. It is indeed. All right. Nope.
We done?
I think so. Unless anyone has anything else. Nope. All righty.
Not yet.
Yeah.
All right.
I shall.
Night, y'all.
Recording.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.